Right, shalom, shalom. First, I'd like to give all praises unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Waharakah Kodash, and double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Honors to you brothers out there in the highways and the byways, teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. And recently the trade deficit of the United States of America has been, in the news. Shalom, um, concerning, Trump and these tariffs. Trump's complaining about the trade deficits with, Mexico, Canada, the EU, everyone really, when you break it down. And that's because Babylon the Great is the great consumer. All right, they consume more than they produce. And this is by design, this is through design. We're not going to go deep into the economic roots of it. We can go into the dollar reserve status, how easy it is to access credit in America. Which if you're in the West, especially if you're in the West, people take it for granted that you can. A lot of the things you buy on credit. You have access to large amounts of credit, which really affords you a lot of the luxuries that you have, right? The fact that you could buy into the future. All right. A lot of things people wouldn't have if they weren't able to get it on credit. Whereas if you go certain places in the world, you can only have based upon the money that you have, on you. Right. You can't just go get a credit card with $10,000 on there and start splashing. Yeah. It don't work like that. So all those things have, played into the consumer nature. We could go into how Esau's corporations can, they can they can produce the products cheaper abroad and then bring them back and sell them to the American public who have all this credit and so forth. So we could go into the whole situation, but we're not really going to go that deep into this lesson. What I really want to focus on is the fact that the trade deficit exists and how that lends into the identification of Babylon the Great, which we teach rightly is the United States of America. So first and foremost, let's get this scripture here, because geopolitics, the entire history of the world is prophecy. All right. Show me history and I'll show you prophecy fulfilled. All right. Show me history. All right. Show me current events and I will show you prophecy fulfilled. Okay. So this is the book of Daniel's 4:17. It says, "This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men." All right. "And giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men." Meaning the Lord has the power to take the man that's at the bottom of the so-called pyramid and put him at the top. And that happened with many nations, notably with Esau. Esau came from the bottom and now he's at the top. And it's going to happen with the Israelites because we're the basis of men right now. We're at the bottom. All right. We're at the bottom of society, but we're going to go to the top. And that's by the word and the will and the word of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And everything that happens to fulfill that is by his word. All right. That's how nations rise and nations fall. Now you could go into the details of how it happened in the flesh, but it ultimately goes back to the spirit. Okay. So the Lord rules in the kingdom of men. And this Nebuchadnezzar, he learned that lesson because it was laid out for him how his kingdom would fall, and it was told to him exactly which kingdom. It was told him of the kingdoms that would rise after him, and so said, so done. All right. Nebuchadnezzar learned that it really wasn't within his power. It was by the divine word of the Heavenly Father that he had been risen up, and by the same word was he cast down. The brother posted Ecclesiasticus 10:4. The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. Yeah. Now Esau Edom, he thinks that it's in his hand, it's in his power and his witchcraft to reign in the earth. But he gonna find out that nah, man. You ain't never really been the one that's in control. You think you are, because you're running some psyops out here, and you're running some clandestine operations, and you're manipulating the world, and you're moving and shaking, but you don't know the Lord is the one moving and shaking you. But anyway, so I had to let that drop. So let's look at a few of these. Okay, no, let's start here, and then we'll get into the scriptures once we get to the ships. So Revelations 18 goes into the fall of Babylon. All right. But this is an ancient Babylon. This is a new mystery Babylon. All right. Now, Revelations 18:1 said, and after these things, I saw an angel come down from heaven, saying, with having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. You should know who that is. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Now, this is a prophecy which was spoken before by the prophets. If we go to the book of Jeremiah, let's get straight to the point. All right, Jeremiah 51. I believe it's also, there we go. All right, so we got Isaiah 34 covers it as well. Isaiah 13 covers it. So you can go to Isaiah 13 and it covers the destruction of Babylon the Great, same thing. Isaiah 13:20 says, it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, which is heavy because the Arabians invest heavily in America. There's, in these recent times, in these modern times, the Arabians, beginning with the Saudi Arabians, own a lot of assets in America. That's a real thing. You can go Google that. Neither shall the shepherds make their fold there, but wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of the doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant places. And her time is near to come, her days shall not be prolonged. All right. So this prophecy is the same event, right, that you're going to read about in Isaiah 34 as well. But the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it, the owl also and the raven shall dwell in it, and he shall stretch out upon it the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. That's what the destruction brings. Destruction brings confusion. You can't make one thing from another because there ain't no landmarks. And that's what them thermonuclear missiles is going to do to America. It's going to stretch upon it a line of confusion, right? Rubble, melted, and stones of emptiness, right? And they shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but none shall be there, and all her princes shall be nothing. All the nobles of America, the rich, the movers and shakers are going to be destroyed, man. All right. Except for the super elite that's going to be out of America. The ones who are in America when the destruction comes are going to be destroyed. You got some of these people, they got bunkers in America. You ain't gonna survive in no bunker in America, because a bunker can't survive a direct thermonuclear hit. When they were designing them bunkers, it was to protect you from a shock wave or nuclear radiation. It's not those bunkers don't protect you from a direct nuclear strike, which is what's going to happen, because the Lord's going to pelt America with thousands of nuclear warheads, man. So there ain't no bunker that can save you from that. Believe. So a lot of these men are going to be gone. A lot of these politicians and so forth. And thorns shall come up in her palaces, nettles and brambles in the fortresses thereof, and it shall be a habitation of dragons, right, and a court for owls. Which a dragon is a lizard, a big lizard. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow, and the screech owl also shall rest there, and find for herself a place of rest. There shall the great owl make her nest, and lay and hatch, and gather under her shadow. There shall the vultures also be gathered, every one with her mate. Okay, so this is same prophecy. All right, then you go into Jeremiah 50. Therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the island shall dwell there, and the owl shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. And that's America. You know, Babylon the Great. It's when the great destruction comes upon America, all right, no one is ever going to live there again. All right, that land is not going to be inhabited by man. It's going to be an example on as was Sodom and Gomorrah for all eternity as to the judgment of the wicked. All right. It says, as God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring cities thereof, saith the Lord. And don't think because Trump got in there that America ain't Sodom and Gomorrah. All right. America's still Sodom and Gomorrah. America's still filled with untold perverseness. And you only got to look as far as, well, Trump himself is a sodomite, if you didn't know, right? These men are hypocrites. Trump is a sodomite. They're all sodomites. They're high-level witches and warlocks, and they perform sodomy in their rituals, if you didn't know. And he's got an open sodomite in his cabinet with a husband and 2 adopted children. So them men are about the Sodom thing. Don't think Trump ain't with Sodom. He is. They're just playing that left-right game. But you see past the game, you know exactly how these men operate. All right. If Trump was a real one, he would have made being a sodomite illegal, which he has not done, and he will not do. All right. It says, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. So no one's going to live there. All right. And then Jeremiah 51 mentions it as well. And Babylon shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, and astonishment, and an hissing without an inhabitant. All right. And the brother also linked it in with Bosra as well, which is another prophetic spiritual leaning towards America. All right. Spiritual Bosra. Edom. For I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord. Jeremiah 59:13. For I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord, that Bosra shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all its cities shall be perpetual waste. Yeah. So that shows you that this prophecy is speaking about America, which is Babylon the Great. All right. Spiritual Bosra, spiritual Edom. Right. And all these prophets were speaking of the same day, the same great event. So when we go back into Revelations 18 is speaking of something that the prophets of old had already spoken of, but it's giving you a little bit more detail. So we're going to get the details, okay? It says, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. So when these goofy Christians tell you that there ain't no such thing as an unclean animal, then you need to ask him about, well, what are these? Anyway, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. So this is giving you an identification. We're seeing that Babylon the Great is going to be a major player among the nations, have major influence among the nations. What nation has more influence in the earth in these last days than America? There's a whole term out there, Americanization, American exceptionalism. All nations, right, have been Americanized in one way, shape, or form, through whether it be through the media, through business. All right. They have been influenced by America more than any other nation. Okay. And then if you want to talk about the merchants, the number one nation, if you're a merchant and you had to choose one nation to sell your goods, it's going to be America. Because in America, there's a market for everything. Some countries, there ain't a market for it. Like, for instance, let's say you're selling, especially luxury goods. Let's say you're selling luxury vehicles. Okay, do you want to sell those luxury vehicles? If I'd give you the option to sell those vehicles in America or in Mozambique, which one, where do you think you would prefer as a merchant? Which one's going to make you rich? If I said to you, do you want to sell your luxury items in Estonia or America? Which would you choose? If you're a smart businessman, you say, yeah, I want to do it. I want to choose America. Why? Because America has the biggest consumer market in the world. And you're going to find buyers for what you're selling 100%. So America has made many rich, many merchants rich in the earth because they buyers, they're buyers. They consume all forms of delicacies, avocados, everything, everything which is top of the notch goes to America because there's a buyer there that's going to floss. Yeah. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people. Right. So only ones that the Lord is concerned of is his people. Now you're gonna get these goofy Christians. They're gonna say, well, his people could be anyone. No. No. Okay. His people are the Israelites, beginning with the elect. And it's that simple. Okay. This is Matthew 2 and 5. And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, and thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah. For out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. So the people of the Lord is Israel. All right. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye not receive not of her plagues. And that final plague represents that fire, that great destruction. So the Lord's going to deliver his people from that destruction. And it's the destruction is just. All right. When the destruction comes, it's going to be absolutely justified. Because America is, I don't even know how to describe it. It's the pinnacle of darkness and wickedness and confusion. There ain't been a nation that is more deserving of destruction since man have been on the earth. It says, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. And what is America specialized in? Destruction. And so the Lord is going to bring the perfection of destruction onto America. Who was the first nation to use atomic weapons? America. So they're going to reap what they sow. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. Okay, the American, the general American standard of living, the American dream. Many people have enjoyed it. To eat of the best. All right. To receive many goods and services. That's why it's known as the first world. That's the difference. In the first world, you can live deliciously. That's not to say everyone in the West is living like that, but there is a significant population of people in America, Britain, the West that live deliciously, but especially America. So much torment and sorrow give her, for she hath said in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow and shall see no sorrow. Right? They really believe that this thing's gonna go on and go on strong. But the Lord is gonna bring America to a fiery and terrible end. And that's gonna be it. There ain't gonna be no making it great again. Make America a desert. That's what's gonna happen. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. It says, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her. And you see this. All of the elites, when I say elites, I mean every country has their elites, meaning their upper class. I don't care if if you're in an African country. If you go to Africa, you could be the poorest country you could find in Africa, Somalia, right? You got elites, upper class people in Somalia that are rich because they make deals with American companies, British companies to assist in the subjugation of their own people, and therefore they become rich. And then what happens? They fly to America. They a lot of times their children are living in America. I'm sure many of you brothers have come across some dude or some girl, and he's the son of someone from some country somewhere, and they got money, and you're like, hold on, that's a poor country. Yeah, it might be a poor country, but that doesn't mean everybody in that country is poor. There's an upper class. It just means that in those countries there's a massive gap between the rich and the poor. So a lot of the children of these different nations, they either grow up in America full-time or part-time, or at least go to school in America. So they'll send them to America to go to one of them Ivy League schools because they got the money to pay for it. Because they're paying over the odds to be there too. Or they visit America and they get to live in America better than you so-called Negroes that's been there the whole time because they are actually rich. And they're rich through committing fornication with this devil. By signing, by going along with his program, that USA aid that they're trying to blame on the Democrats, like as if that's just the state, that's just the way America runs. They've been bribing off foreign diplomats and businessmen from the very beginning. If that don't work, they kill them, or that's how the game goes. A lot of times, the way they'll pay these guys off too is give their children these positions in companies doing nothing, but they're getting paid. There's a lot of nastiness that happens, man. But that's the way of the world. But it says the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her. Right? Oh, look at what's his name? Uh, the Don that's running Ukraine right now. He's rich as hell off American money. What was his name? Zelensky. Zelensky's rich as hell. All right. Sure, this thing's running properly. All right. I've met a few people, man. I've met people that come over to the UK, but they're living in America, and they're they're like Somalian and shit, like, and they're rich. Daddy's rich. Daddy's just paying for them to do this and do that. And they're living deliciously. It says, and live deliciously with her, shall bewail her and lament for her when they see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. Right? The world at the moment is economically dependent on American consumerism. And that's why you got this whole thing with the tariffs popping off, and it's causing such a stir, because the world is really reliant on Americans just buying shit. All right. The world has been set up where the rest of the world just makes things for the Americans to buy. If you want to put it like that. Now, yeah, Europe is also a major consumer, but America is bigger than the whole of Europe put together. All right. That's why Trump's like, yo. And the merchants of earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen, all these things. In order for these, you when in terms of these luxury goods, the number one place that has these people is America. America's got lots and lots of millionaires, lots of billionaires, lots of people with money. It's got a lot of poor people, but even the poor people have credit to buy. You know what I mean? Yeah, and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and fine wood and all manner of vessels of ivory and all manner of vessels of most precious wood and of brass and iron and marble and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil. If you're a merchant in all these things, you definitely want to sell your product in America. You want a piece of the American market, because that can make you rich. If you can get 1% of any market in America, you're a rich man. Just 1%. That's how big the American market is. Just get 1% of flipping rubber bands in America and you're rich. You know what I'm saying? And fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep, right? And horses. Yeah, horses ain't even native to America. Horses were brought to America by the Spanish. And chariots, cars, right? Everybody wants to sell their cars in America, right? And slaves, right? And the souls of men and slaves, right? That's hired slaves. That's even bond slaves, because where do you the trafficking of women and men and children for various purposes, whether it be for satanic ritual abuse, you know, or whatever it may be, the number one place they're being trafficked to is America. And please don't believe that Trump Trump is part of all that. All these elites, they be dealing with these sex slaves and satanic ritual abuse and sacrifices and all that, man. Don't let them fool you. All right. That's the way of America. And the fruits that thy soul lusteth after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas. And this is how you know it's not talking about the Vatican City. If the Vatican City were to be destroyed today, the only people that are going to be really balling is the Catholics. But the Vatican isn't a major consumer in the earth, so the merchants ain't bothered with that. But if America were to destroy it, it's like, oh shit, what am I going to do with all these products? And saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple, all the designer garments, and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? Because when it comes to world trade, which the majority of world trade is done by the waters, most ships are heading to America with goods. They're not heading from America with goods. They're heading to America with goods. America drives the global economy through its consumerism. Okay. And it's been that way for a long while, as I'm going to show. Right. And cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? Right. And they cast dust on their heads, cried and weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city in wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea, all that had ships in the sea. There ain't a shipping company in the world that isn't making their money bringing goods to America. That's the main place. I'm going to show you, don't worry. And by reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour is she made desolate. All right. So let's have a look. Where are we going to start off? Right. So we're going to look. This is just 2024. So that's last year, right? The world's top exporters and importers. So an exporter, countries export services and goods. Okay. So it's going to say the world's top exporters. That's when you're selling abroad services and goods, and importers would be buying services and goods from abroad. Let's have a look at the list. So who's at the top of? It says China leads the list of the world's largest exporter, and this is going to show you why the whole trade deficit thing is. They keep talking about China and the United States. So the number one exporter is China. Now, you might be surprised to hear that the number two exporter in the world is the United States. You see, when you go into World War II, all right, World War II decimated Europe, but it didn't decimate America. So what happened after, pretty much Europe was decimated, right? There was, some production that was left untouched, wherever the elites chose. There's word out there certain factories was ordered not to be bombed because there was interest in there. But pretty much Germany, which was a big producer at the time, Britain, these were destroyed. So then what was left was the United States. And so America became a pivotal exporter in the world. All right. Then they started importing like nobody else, which we're going to show you. So China's, the number one exporter. The United States is number two. All right. And all that's making money for the shipmen too. It says the world's 10 largest importers. And here you have United States. And we got to remember that China as a exporter, never used to really be on this list. Even as an importer, this is new. Okay, but if you look at, for instance, remember China's a new player, right? If you compare the United States to Germany, you see the difference. And then even when you go to imports, right? Look at the imports of America. 3.3 trillion in 2022, right? China was 2.71, but remember China's a new in the game. The next one down is 897 billion. So you can imagine if we were to see the historical data, yeah, of importing, like America was just beasting in imports for a long time, for like the last 50, 60 years, just far and above everyone else when it comes to importing, running a massive trade deficit with the rest of the world. All right. Oh, did I find a historical on that? Let me see. If I could find one, I'll find one. So I found this. I let the AI, let the what did brother call it? The artificial idumia answer the question: when did America become a net importer of goods? All right. We're not concentrating on services because, yeah, we want to focus on the ships. It says the United States has been a net importer of goods for decades. The US has been a net importer of oil since the mid 1940s and a net importer of manufactured goods for most of the 19th century. All right. Explanation: it says the US was a net importer of manufactured goods for most of the 19th century. However, the US became a net exporter of manufactured goods between 1890 and 1913. This was due to a shift in comparative advantage towards manufactured goods. All right. So in recent history, for most of the 19th century down, it's in the 20th century, it's a net importer. It's bringing in more than it's putting out, and its imports is far and above everyone else's for decades. All right. Yes, America, the United States is the world's largest consumer market. This is due to its large, wealthy, and diverse population. All right. It says consumer spending in the US is a major component of the GDP. In 2022, consumer spending made up 68% of the US economy. All right. So that's why you see Trump talking about the trade deficit, because what he upset about is that these nations are selling all their goods, you know, into America, and America's buying all their goods, but they're not selling as much as they're buying, and he wants the deficit is massive, and he wants to reduce that now. It says President Donald Trump has repeatedly criticized the nation's trade deficit, which the Commerce Department reported Wednesday reached a new record high. But the same commerce report showed that the value of American exports had also hit a new record, indicating there's still strong demand for US goods and services abroad. A trade deficit simply means a country is importing more than it is exporting, as the Congressional Research Service reported in 2018. Trump's fixation on reversing the deficit contrasts with the views of most economists. All right, which is basically just a wind down of the American empire. But let's have a look now at this information: maritime transport. It says transport by water is cheaper than transport by air or ground, and that's still to this day, but significantly slower for longer distances. Maritime transport accounts for roughly 80% of the international trade, according to UNCTAD in 2020. So when you see the scriptures talking about the ship, the people that own the ships, yeah, because those are the majority of the people that's moving the trade. It's the ships. Most goods are still being moved through the earth by ships to this day, and they're making money off that trade. And the majority of that trade is delivering goods from the various nations in the world into America, which is the biggest consumer market in the earth. Okay. And that proves that America is Babylon the Great, because America is pretty much driving the world economy. And not just now, obviously, China has been catching up, but that's something that's happened in the last decade. If you go before, America was just way up in front of, there was no China. You understand? But China is catching up. And there's an image of the movement of the ships. And all this trade is mainly bringing goods from all these different places, from China, from Asia, and bringing them over into these Panax ports on the east and the west coast of America. All right. So America is at the center of world trade, man. All right. And you can go and look up, the Panamax ports. These are where the big ships can dock. And America's got, and China as well, actually. Where is it? Where's them? Oh yeah, this is America here, right? You look at America, man, they got ridiculous amounts of Panamax ports. This is to support all that trade. All right. And you got the Chinese ones. All right. Okay. Yeah. Right. So that was pretty much the point. I wonder if we can get a historical. Just to show how dominant America has been. I wonder if they got. See if we got. Trying to see if I could find one that goes back in time, just to show you how China has actually caught up in recent times. So it looks a lot closer than it was even 10 years ago. Actually, let me just try and pick a year, see if I can. Top exporters by country 1990. Let's try 1990. All right, so you see right there. Oh, that's export. How it was different even then. China wasn't even on there. I needed import. Yes. Right. Okay. So this is a good point. So if you look here, this is back in 1990. So this makes the point perfectly. So this is 1990. What, 30 years ago? 30 years ago. Look, and you can see that the number 2 importer in the world at that time was France. China wasn't even on the list. And this is how it was for the majority of that century. The United States was the imports was just far and above everyone. Massive amounts of exports, massive amounts of imports, just dominating global trade. This is this is where the action was. And now in recent times, China has kind of be quickly catching up with America in terms of imports and exports and trade. And that's why they're positioning China as a threat to America economically. All right, but it wasn't like that. Let's see if we can get another year. Okay, let's see if we could pull up another year. So let's go to the year 2000. 2000, adios, out of time. This is all prophecy. So there we go. So even in the year 2000, the hell's going on here? What? Import, export. This still the import? Import, man. Oh. Yeah. There we go. So United States at the top again when it comes to imports, and then you had Germany second. But you just look how far off Germany is. It's not even close. All right. And so, like I said, it was, so if we have a look, when China started coming into game, let's start look at 2010. There you go. So by 2010, you got China coming up into the game. Yeah. Let's have a look at another year. And then obviously coming down now to where we are, 2022. I don't understand some of these things. It's got China there. Yeah, shut up, cat. I'm gonna let you out in a minute. But you get the point. All right. I don't know why it's got China above there. It shouldn't be. They're not the number one. But yeah, so yeah, Lord willing, brothers understand the point there anyway. That when we going into the scriptures, it's clearly pointing towards America when it comes to the merchants being made rich, the kings of the earth being made rich, through the trade, the people that own the ships being made rich from the trade. There's only one nation it can be talking about, and that's America. All right, America is that nation, that great consumer market, that great city. All right, with all them delicacies. All right. So yeah, let's finish off with the scripture here. The brother posted 2 Ezra 16:1. It says, "Woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia! Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria! Gird up yourselves with cloths of sack and hair. Bewail your children and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand." Yeah, the Lord's gonna wrap this thing up, man, and we're seeing it. The Lord's gonna wrap this place up. But America is mystery Babylon, Babylon the Great, man. It's not the Vatican and nothing like that, because the Vatican doesn't fit into this. All right, ain't no ships. In fact, let me see if I can see. See if they got a number. I mean, it says the Vatican imports, essential imports encompasses food products, fuel, construction materials, blah, 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 blah. It's at 50 million, man. Like, come on, man. The Vatican ain't moving and shaking like that when it comes to world trade. Let's be honest. All right. The only thing maybe they they rival man is them little boys. That's about it. So yeah, Lord willing, that was edifying. I just was thinking about that when I was meditating on these tariffs and the trade deficit, and I thought, yeah, that's an opportunity to show that these, even now with the trade deficit, which is playing a role in the geopolitics, is showing you that it's prophecy that's been unfolding, because that trade deficit is there. It shows how much these merchants are making out of America by selling into America. You understand? You're selling your goods into America, it makes you rich. All right, let me release this cat, man. All right, man. So, hey, Kal Halal, Yahweh Shem Yabashai, Waharakah Kodash, double honors to the apostles, elders, and great millstone. Shalom to you, brothers out there in the highways and the byways, teaching this word. And shalom to you, brothers and sisters, listening and learning and supporting the ministry. Shalom.